The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
We have a trade today in the National Hockey League, and not an insignificant trade at all. And I don't remember a season where we've had this many significant deals this early on. Teams are barely over the 30-game mark this year, and they are already so antsy and making a lot of deals and moves and coaching changes and everything in between. So today we get a trade between the St. Louis Blues and the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks who made a trade last week acquiring Jacob Trouba. So this deal, we're talking about them again. Less than a week later, they're still making moves. But when we get through all this, you'll understand why this move was necessary. And it's kind of in conjunction with that move of Jacob Trouba last week. So the Anaheim Ducks acquired from the St. Louis Blues a second-round pick in 2027. And I am going to get this name right because he is a noted Alan Walsh client, but he also might have the most difficult name to say in the entire National Hockey League. They acquired that second-round pick in 2027 and Jeremie Biakabutuka. I think I nailed it. So they acquire Biakabutuka, the second-round pick, and they sent the other way. Lifelong Duck. He's never played for another National Hockey League team in his career. He was almost at 1,000 games, just fell short, and now he's going to reach 1,000 with the Blues. Cam Fowler is now a Blue, and they also send a 2027 fourth-round pick. There's also salary retention in the deal. Anaheim retains $2.5 million of Cam Fowler's salary, and he's in the seventh year of his 8-year deal, so he signed through next season as well at that $4 million cap hit that now the Blues are going to have on the books. 33-year-old Cam Fowler, as I mentioned, entire career with the Anaheim Ducks, 991 games, 9 away from 1,000. He'll celebrate that in 3 weeks' time with the St. Louis Blues. And on the Anaheim Ducks side of things, it became a completely necessary move because the Ducks aren't good, and they're not trying to be good. And having a player like Cam Fowler taking a spot on the left side of their defense didn't make sense. So they acquired Jacob Trouba last week, and that means their entire right side is now covered by vets who they're not trying to develop because they won't be here when there is a future of this team that is competitive. So they, on the right side of their D, they got Trouba, Dumoulin, and Radko Gudas. And on the left side, they had Cam Fowler there playing the most minutes of anybody on this team on D, but they have Minchikov, Zellweger, and Lacombe on the left side, and they need all three of those young prospects who are 21, and 23 to develop. And develop by playing NHL games. So Cam Fowler, from the beginning of the season, knew that at some point here he was going to get traded. And as the season went along, he took up too much ice time from these young guys who need that ice time to develop their game. So this was supposed to be something that was done at the trade deadline when we see these moves for the big name free agents, mid-veteran players who are on bad teams that are obviously going to be shipped out to contenders. And we see it a little early, which is interesting, but I think it just became a point where we can't let this thing go on anymore. We probably wanted to hear him here for 9 more games, but those 9 more games to hit 1,000 is 9 more games where we can't play all of our young players. So Anaheim says, Pat Verbeek says, we're going to make this move. And the value they get back isn't ideal, I would say. The value they get back is not having Cam Fowler, but the second round pick, it's not till 2027, which is a little disappointing because you want the futures as soon as possible because you have to wait till 2027 to draft this player. So then it's another 3 years before that player can eventually become an NHL player. The sooner that draft pick is, the sooner that player can develop into an NHL player. So I'm a little disappointed on the Ducks side that they're not able to get a pick that's a little sooner in the second round. I think is the right value. It's just you want that pick to be sooner. Plus they retain through this year, the rest of this year, and next year. And then we also have the fourth that they have to send away. So not the best grade on this trade for me for the Ducks, but it's a necessary move for the future of your franchise. And then on the other side, for Cam Fowler's sake, he hopes he goes to a contender, and the Blues are hoping that they can turn around their season and be a contender. Right now, I'm biggest advocate of who cares about the standings at this point, but it's relevant in this case of the Blues, who are trying to claw their way back into a playoff spot. They sit 6th in the Central Division, and they're only 4 points out of the second wildcard spot, but there are 3 teams in between that wildcard spot that Colorado is owning and where the St. Louis Blues are in the standings. They're actually only 6 points back of, or ahead of, the Anaheim Ducks there. So with the Blues, they make this deal. It's an indication that Nick Leddy, who's been injured for most of this year, I think he's played 4 games total this season, isn't coming back anytime soon, and they want some assurance here on their back end for the rest of this season so that they can have some decent defense back there on this team that they hope is going to be good. So on the Blues side, the beautiful thing is that you get to push somebody on the left side of your defense out of the lineup and replace them with a very decent Cam Fowler. So Cam Fowler is probably going to play with either Justin Falk or Colton Parayko in the top 2 pairings of the line. It'll probably be like Fowler, Parayko, Broberg, Falk, or we'll switch Fowler and Broberg on the left side there. And that means Pierre-Olivier Joseph gets moved down to the 3rd pair and Pernovic gets moved out of the lineup, and you can always swap them in and out. But that makes your defense better. You're taking out one of your weaker players on the left side and replacing them with a better player on the left side. It makes sense for the Blues to do this with Nick Leddy looking like he won't be back anytime soon. They now get a stronger left side of their defense. It's a pretty good win for not a lot of money for the St. Louis Blues. $4 million, like I said, this year. And next year, you get a better defense for $4 million. You get ahead of it because a lot of teams would have been in on Cam Fowler at the trade deadline, and you get out ahead of that. You get some time to play with him. You get to hopefully make your team good now, which will get you back into the playoff race, hopefully, and get you a lot of runway here to make that charge for the playoffs and hopefully do something there. So I like the move a lot for the Blues. The 2nd round pick, ideally you don't want to send that out, but that's the cost of doing business when you're getting a player who's not just a rental. He's a 1.5-year rental. And the Blues now, you look at their draft pick situation, they have no picks through 2, 3, and 4 rounds this upcoming draft. They have no 2nd round pick in the 2026 draft, and obviously they just sent their 2027 2nd round pick out. So they have no 2nd round picks for the next 3 drafts. They have emptied the cabinet in the 2nd round going forward to try and be competitive right now because Doug Armstrong clearly believes that there is a good team here on the ice and that they can do some damage with a little bit of help in Cam Fowler coming to this team. So we'll see if the Blues got more in them making moves, because it seems like unless this team starts winning now, Doug Armstrong is going to keep making moves until they start winning. So the Blues probably have more business to do. The Ducks have more pieces to sell. We're going to see more action from both of these teams in this upcoming season and towards the trade deadline. Let me know what you think about this trade wherever you interact with the show. And that's it. That's it for me right now. Thank you for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world if you chose to be listening or watching right now, and I appreciate you for that. Good night from Toronto.
That is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.